Yeah, it's like, do I try and hang on to some old dream, or do I, look at what's in front of me and be faithful to that? Hey, welcome to the... Oh, I thought I was going to do it. Are you going to do it?
Here, I'll do it. You do it, and then we'll get people to vote on which one they prefer.
I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Justin Rucker, and welcome to the Ruckus, where we talk about being a person of influence and how you can impact the culture and the world around you.
That was amazing. Hi, I'm Justin Rucker. Welcome to the Ruckus podcast, where we talk about how we can impact the world around us.
Bro, you're going to take my job, man.
Was I close?
Way better. Yeah.
I was close.
Yeah.
I thought yours was better.
Thanks, man. Well, dude, I'm here. I'm excited today. I'm here with one of my longtime friends. Really, really good friend. Been bandmates for over a decade. Family man, entrepreneur, my friend Sean Dee. Sean, how's it going?
Man, it is so good to be in the house of Justin. I love this place. I walk in the door and I feel like I'm at a 5-star resort / trampoline park / jungle / sports match. It's amazing. I love it, man. I haven't sat across the table and looked at you in the eyes like this in a long time.
This could just be the whole episode, just looking each other in the eyes.
I could do this for a long time. Dude, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you. You're a wonderful person. I'm so grateful to know you. So,
dude, back at you.
Thanks, to be man. Here.
Yeah. Let's see. We met in 2005, right? Is that when you moved to SLO, or was it 2006?
2006. So I moved to San Luis Obispo in 2006. My buddy, I don't know, should I say names? Am I allowed to say names?
Go ahead, and then text me if you want me to beep it out.
I can redact the names to protect the innocent. So I moved to SLO, San Luis Obispo in 2006. I had a friend who was going to Cuesta College, and we had played in bands and stuff in high school together, and I slept on his couch for my junior and senior year when I didn't have a place to live. And he invited me to come stay with him for spring break. Which sounded really fun, but I was way too broke and couldn't afford to pay rent and take any time off. So my mom actually, he called my mom, and my mom told me that I needed to go to spring break. And so she paid for whatever I would have made for a week so that I could take a week off of work. And I went to spring break in San Luis Obispo and just hung out with my friends and partied for a week. And then at the end of the week, I just end up staying on the couch, and I just didn't go back.
Nice.
So 2006, baby. But I met you. So were you in the Weather Eds small group?
Yep.
So were you there when I came for the first time?
Yep. I was there the first week you came. You and our unnamed friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy that you were there. Yeah, so that's when I met you. I got long roundabout, got invited to a small group from the church that we were going to at the time. I had this guy, I was working for this Christian contractor guy, and he would just we would have these hour-long car rides to our job sites in the morning, and he and I would argue back and forth about politics, and he was like a big George Bush guy. And I was a big burn it down anarchy guy.
Yeah,
and
punk rock.
Yeah, yep. Absolutely. And so we would just argue for hours about politics and about God. And it was crazy. I had so many conversations about God. And then, my roommate that I was staying with ended up getting invited to that church small group, and I came with him. And dude, that's when I met you.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel like that was a really pivotal time for, both of us, but just kind of a lot of our friends that are still actually really good friends with us today. I think that was my second year at college. To spend most of my first year just doing really dumb things and just trying to figure out who I was and what I was about. And that was really around the time when I really started kind of coming back around to church and trying to find God again. I grew up in church, and it was a pretty cool church, but just once I moved out when I was 17, and I just decided, church thing wasn't for me. God, I don't know if it was really real. And I just went hardcore into other things that I kind of regret, but...
Word.
We'll have an episode about all that stuff, but...
Right.
Yeah, it was just like, I remember right around when you came was when I was really I was just done. So many things in my life just weren't working out. I'd sought just random things like bands, partying, all frats, all that stuff, just trying to medicate, and it just didn't work. And so I was pretty much at rock bottom when I started coming back to the Weather Itself. Remember when they reached out to me and I started hanging out with him? That was a really, really defining season in my life for sure. Yeah,
it's that early 20s time because everyone, I don't know, for me, similar to what you were saying, I'm like, I had this plan. I was going to be an audio engineer. I was interning at a recording studio in high school, and they told me, hey, go and get a degree, learn about like the music business because we want you to come back and start an indie record label. And so like I had this whole plan laid out, like, okay, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get an audio engineering and music business degree. I'm going to start a indie record label. I'm going to get to do A&R. I'm going to get to pick all my own favorite bands. And like I had this whole path and plan. And it seemed like, I mean, again, granted, I'm like 19 years old at the time. So I think I'm like, yes.
A man with a plan.
I'm like, man, I've got this all figured out already. But then there's that certain practicality of like you take the dream and then you constantly run up against these roadblocks. And it seems like every turn that you make, you're too dumb or too young or too broke to make anything happen. And we're all just like wandering in circles trying to find out like, man, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And man, thank God for Jesus.
Yeah.
For just sorting us out.
Yeah. Still sorting us out.
Yeah.
So the reason I went to Cal, so I moved to San Luis Obispo to go to Cal Poly. The whole reason is because I was a massive music nerd in high school. I loved music. I played bass. I played guitar. Listened to punk rock. Back then, like listening to indie music and indie bands and finding new bands and going to record stores. That was the coolest thing to do.
Life, man.
Like if you knew a band that other people hadn't heard of, that was like really cool.
Oh,
you know, wear the patches and the chains and the chucks to school. That was just my life. And I remember after high school, I told my mother, I said, I want to go study music so I can hit the road with my friends, join a band, do the record label, just music. Music was it.
Yeah.
And my mom, she's pretty wise. She was a single mom, put us through private schools. She's like, no.
I love your mom, man.
She's like,
she's the best.
She's like, you can study music after you get like what she called an educational degree first. And she's like, if you don't, you will die. It's like, all right.
Straight up. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. So the reason I ended up going to Cal Poly, I was really surprised I got in because I got in the engineering program and my grades were very low. My high school GPA was like a 2.3 or 2.4. And so how I got into Cal Poly, I don't know.
It's amazing.
But I studied electronics because I'm like, well, hey, if I can't play music and study music, at least I could study gear. My youth pastor, when I grew up, he used to make guitar pedals for fun as like a hobby. He's really the one who got me into music when I was in like high school. It's like I had friends who were in gangs or I'd play music and the music just caught. So it kind of pulled me away from that lifestyle a bit.
Awesome.
But I had a youth pastor who made pedals just as a hobby. He didn't know how they worked. He just kind of knew how to solder them and would test them. So that was what got me at Cal Poly in San Luis, electronics.
It's ironic because I had a hobby of destroying pedals and taking electronics apart and being like, I'm going to figure out how this works at 16, 17. You like take something apart and then you're like, I have no idea what's happening here. And then I have it's so funny because I just have like a boneyard. Well, I've thrown it away by now, but I had a boneyard of just music gear things that I had taken apart just to try and see if I could figure them out. Never did.
Yep.
They just died.
Dude, after this, I've got a box of like random pedals in my garage, like just one's taken apart. I have another one at my other job too, in my office. I've just got a bunch of my old pedals that I brought in and they've tried to tweak or they're just sitting there in the graveyard.
So awesome.
But so we meet in like 2006, right? We start playing music together at the church.
Correct.
Right? You're a drummer and I'm a bass player, so there's already
we have synergy instantly.
Yeah. It was like this divine intervention that brought us together.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I feel like you taught me how to play drums properly, because when I played drums, so I was in like hardcore bands or punk bands where, you know, the concepts of like feel or playing things in time are somewhat irrelevant. It's just like,
Yep.
let's just be as loud as possible, and like, you know, you're just trying to like have some kind of like visceral energy to
Yep.
whatever you're doing, and so like the click track doesn't matter and the vibes don't matter. And I feel like when I came and started playing at church with you, it was like, hey, thank you for what you're trying to do, but we're trying to accomplish a certain goal. And in a lot of ways, I learned how to play proper, you know, because of you and Tommy and
Yeah.
the lads.
Yeah, man. So like in high school, right? I was really into punk rock and hardcore music. That was like my thing.
Amen,
And so,
brother.
like, you know, the idea of playing with the kick. I'm just gonna crank the gain, get as much like overdrive, and just.
You're like, yeah, I have a pick. I can play with a pick. Oh, you said kick.
Yeah, and so yeah, man, 100%. And so we played. You know, we played for several years at church. I mean,
Yeah.
at least 10. I probably was in slow for about 10 years before I moved down to Santa Maria to be a part of the church plant here. But so we played on the worship team forever, and then we like basically started a band. You, me, your now wife.
My now wife.
Right. Were you guys dating when we started the band, or?
We were flirting pretty hard. Well, we had started the band and we needed a keys player. And it was funny because, so my wife plays keys, for those of you who are listening. And I had a major crush on her. She also played on the worship team with us. And I remember I was getting some pressure from our band leader to be like, hey, you guys should start dating. Like, you guys should get married. We need a keys player. You guys should work this out. Yeah, so I met my wife playing in the worship team. She plays keys, I play drums. When we started playing worship, we were all friends. We were all young. None of us had kids. We had nothing but time. And so we'd get to the end of worship practice and somebody would be like, hey, I have this thing I've been working on, like, let's jam. Or, you know, we would have like these 30-minute band practices that would turn into like 3-hour long,
Yep.
just like writing sessions and jam sessions. And it was kind of fun, like the way that band was born, because it was really born out of like just an overflow of like, we're already playing music together, we're already all friends. And then it was kind of just, here's just this organic like thing that just happened. It's really awesome.
Yeah. That's when Citizen was born.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. So I mean, even when we were in Citizen, we played at the church together. But I mean, we made records together, right? EPs, I guess five tracks long. I don't know if that counts as a full length record or not.
We count them. If you put them all together,
There you go.
it's a full length.
Yeah. We went on tours. Did a tour across the U.S.
Lots of time in recording studios. Lots of time in a van. Lots of time sitting around waiting outside of random churches for people to show up with keys so we could get inside. Lots of fast food.
Yes. Yeah.
What was your favorite part about, like, so when we went on tour, what was your favorite thing that we did?
I loved Louisiana.
Absolutely.
I still do. I still contemplate moving there.
We should do it, man.
Yeah.
California's weird.
Yeah, California is getting really weird. I think it's worth fighting for, so I'm still fighting for it.
I
but
know. I love it here so much.
Maybe like when it's time to retire or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I have a vivid memory of being in the middle of the woods in the back of a truck with shotguns, driving like 50 miles an hour,
Yep.
trying to kill a wild pig, which we never did. We never found a pig.
Right. We did get a rabbit though.
We did get a rabbit.
And we ate it there.
It was disgusting.
Yeah. So just to give people who are listening some context. So when we were in a band, when we toured, we stopped in Louisiana. We spent a lot of time in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And there was a family that let us use their home. We got to stay in their home, which was like a really nice home.
Yeah.
And they had like the fridge stocked for us and everything. And they didn't actually stay there with us. So they just kind of gave us the house. And there was just that one night, what's his name? Chris, I think? not Chris McCade, but there was another. I don't remember. I think his name was Chris, but they roll up in their truck, right? And they're like, "Hey, y'all's the band, right? Y'all want to come shoot?"
I remember Andrew Doty.
Doty, yes.
I think it was Doty.
Okay. Oh man, he's got to come to California.
He does. He does really need to come to California. He would hate it, but he should come here. He would hate it, but he does need to come here.
Yeah, but I remember they just rolled up in this pickup truck, right? Like, hey, y'all want to come hunting with us? I'm like, sure. And I just remember opening like the back cab, right? And there's just all these guns across the back seat.
So many guns. You're like, where do we sit?
Yeah, I'm like, hey guys, you guys got like some guns back here. I'm like, I'll just kick them to the side. I don't know if there's the safety zone. Just kick. And we're like, wow, this isn't
different.
Yeah, this isn't California.
It was so fun.
Yeah. And then the bow fishing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bow fishing was amazing, and Jenna's just like hitting all these fish by accident, and we're like struggling, like we couldn't shoot anything. And then my wife Jenna is just like, every time she shoots an arrow, she's just like, "Oh, did I get one? That's so weird." Yeah. And we were all getting so frustrated because none of us could get hit anything. Yeah. I feel like we got it towards the end, but
yeah,
I just remember that as we were coming back in on the fan boat in the pitch black, going 1,000 miles an hour with that crazy redneck driver guy.
Woo, let's go. Hey, y'all. Woo.
That guy was insane. Yeah. But I just remember coming back in and just seeing like the lightning storm and just seeing lightning flash. And it was just like this really crazy, serene, beautiful moment. Yeah. Yeah. That was an experience.
Yeah. We're like birthed into manhood
at that point. Seriously.
Out on the bayou, thunder, rain, bows and arrows, gators.
Yeah, there were several moments where I'm like, this guy could push us off the boat and drive away, and no one would ever know. Yep. And he seemed like the kind of guy who might do
it.
It's like, it's a good thing we were broke, or else, he might have taken advantage of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'd have to say Louisiana was definitely my favorite part of the tour.
Yeah, for sure.
Florida was pretty cool, too. I think we played at the conference there. It was in the American Gladiator Arena. That was pretty cool. But, yeah, man, just overall, that was definitely an experience of a lifetime. What was your favorite part?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the time, getting to spend the time together. Like, it's hard to pick a favorite part because it's just the whole experience was amazing. Yeah. I think for me as a newlywed, it was like Jenna and I were married for a couple of months before we went on tour. And so we really had no idea like what marriage was. We didn't know anything. And so for us, it was almost like a second honeymoon with all of my best guy friends.
Sleeping in a van.
So it was great. It was for me as a single guy transitioning to married life. It was really helpful because I'm like, it was like a slow, like a slowly weaning off of that crazy life. But we always, we look back on it and it's just like, man, what a great experience that we got to have together at the beginning of our relationship. And just even just the time. Yeah. Like just spending time in a van, the conversations, and just being in community together with like this dream and people who are 100% on board with this dream and this passion. Like, man, we're going to impact young people with our music and their lives are going to change, and getting to see people respond, after shows and getting to talk to people and hear people's stories. And, that was amazing, like, man, we're doing something, it's like we have this dream and this passion, we're following it, we're executing it, and people are responding the way that we're dreaming that it's going to happen. And I mean, and you're with all your best friends and we're driving away and you're like, man, did you hear this girl said this when we sang this song, like it impacted her like this, and this kid, blah, blah, blah. And like, oh yeah, we prayed with this kid. And it was just amazing. Like, yeah, you can't fake that. You can't write it. It was just like something magic, Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because people would ask me like, dude, it must be so cool to hit the road and play music. And, the music was fun, but I barely remember the music. I remember like after the shows, getting to talk to people, getting to pray with people, just getting people to share their lives, and, people just bawling their hearts out, laughing hysterically, and just really getting to connect with all these different people from all these different backgrounds, and just hearing, not only just how the music was touching their life, but the different things that like God was doing in their lives. And for me, it was really powerful because being able to go from just, our normal church environment that we're always in to going across state to state and all the way across the nation and being like, oh my gosh, God's doing these things everywhere, right? Not just
Right.
in my little realm. It really just kind of helps get rid of that tunnel vision where you're just so used to seeing like your same thing over and over again. But yeah, I definitely, if I had to say the highlights of those trips and of even doing the band, it wasn't really the music. I mean, the music was fun and I thought the music was good. But it was really just about the people we got to meet and the lives we got to touch while we did it, for sure.
Yeah, and the process and the work that you put into writing songs and the work that you put into coming up with parts, and yeah, it's just it's like the classic, like, you love the journey, not the destination. Like, everyone, you can see a finished record or you can see a show, but it's like so many hours and tears and prayers and so much work goes on behind the scenes just to make that little 30 minutes or 45 minutes happen. And it's all that stuff that you don't see. I feel like that is the sweet stuff.
Yeah.
But honestly, when people ask me, they're like, oh, what's it like going on tour and stuff? And I'm like, it's not that cool because it's a lot of work. You barely eat. You are smelly and exhausted. You're spending most of the time driving. Like, it's not as romantic as it sounds. It's very, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of boring, mundane stuff. It's a lot of waiting. It's a lot of, you call some random person from a cell phone number that you got and you have never met this person, and you're like, hey, we're supposed to sleep at your house. Are you a real person? Please tell me.
A lot of faith involved.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just like, we're just going to drive to this place we've never been and stay with someone we've never met, and hopefully we won't die. There's a lot of that. But it's a lot of work, man. I have so much respect for, especially now in our middle age, getting older, it's like I'm seeing people who are still doing it, and I'm so impressed because I'm like, man, I know how much work that takes, and it's crazy.
Yeah. What's interesting is I feel like we're seeing a resurgence of a lot of the bands from when we were in high school, when we were in college. A lot of the indie bands and the punk rock bands, it seems like a lot of them are kind of making comebacks and starting to do the tours again. I don't know if it's an age thing. I think part of it is now that at least their fan base, which is us, back then we were just like broke high school students or college students with no money. Now they're like, oh shoot, our fans have money now. Let's. Yep. And I'm willing to pay to see it,
Yeah, I think too, from what I understand too, there's like the Spotify play, or like the streaming plays. So if you have your music on YouTube or Spotify from 30, 40 years ago, and then suddenly a song somehow goes viral or somehow gets, used on a TikTok video and starts trending or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're famous again. And so I know that a lot of these bands are experiencing that. There's like a whole new generation of kids who are listening to their music that their parents used to listen to when they were kids, and now they're getting more streams and more attention, and what's cool about when you look at the streaming, it's like you can actually see now where people are listening to you and how many people are listening to you in this city and how many people are listening to you in that city. So you can, as a band, look at a map and say, I have 20,000 plays in between these 3 states. Let's pick a city in between all of them and book a show. And now you have actual data that says like, hey, we can, if half of our fans show up, we can actually make X amount of money. We can do this, da, 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 da. And you can actually write a business, like a strategic business plan. It's not like, hey, let's get in a van and ask people if we could play shows, and look at a map. It's like, you can actually really gamify it and do really well. So it's a different ball game.
Yeah, I think too, just with being able to stream, like you said, in YouTube I feel just the whole management structure of music and what it takes to get famous is just completely different, right? I think, Dave Grohl, I was listening to an interview with him and he's talking about, the way we got famous back then is just grind. You start in the garage, you suck, but you get better. You play house shows and you start playing, at restaurants or bar, and, just the grind to build up over time before you get your name out there. But now you could just make a random song and just instantly go viral without all the history, and all the kind of work that it takes. It would used to take to be able to get to that point.
Yeah.
think it just makes it really, really interesting for musicians and bands.
Yeah, it's a wild game because there's so many amazingly talented, incredible artists, and there's so many people who are just phenomenal musicians, prolific songwriters, and just some random thing will go viral and that person gets famous or whatever. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
The grind aspect, I think, still applies. I think you still have to grind, but now it's like bands have to put out content on social media all the time, and that becomes a job. It's like they have to do podcasts and they have to do, whatever. Yeah. So the grind is, I think there's still a grind, but it's just it looks different,
Yeah. And I think you have a lot more control, or a lot more of it's in your hands versus you used to have to go to a label or get a manager
right
to get you in certain venues, that now if you put out enough content and it strikes, you can get yourself there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
New game.
Yeah.
So we're on a podcast. You started a podcast. What do we talk about?
Oh, let's talk about life. Okay, so let's talk about post-band touring.
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss it?
No. I used to. I think there was a time where I missed it because I didn't have other things going on. I think when you stop playing in a band and you stop, doing music, and especially being a young person, it's so much of your identity is wrapped up in this is what I do, and rather than this is who I am. And I think when we first stopped doing music, I was pretty bummed because it's like, oh, man, that's all I ever wanted to do. And is there life outside of, is there a world outside of doing music? Like, can I even survive? And so I think there was a period where it was like super humbling, super bummer. I have to go work a normal job like a normal person.
Normies.
Yeah, which now that I'm a normal person, I'm like, man, I can't believe I was ever a weirdo in a band. At this point, I don't miss it. I definitely remember like the first year or 2 or 3 after, just wondering like, man, how do I, should I join another band, or like, should I do this or should I do that? I mean, we wrote some worship songs as a church, and, we did some church stuff.
Worship albums, yeah.
We did some, but it wasn't the same,
Yeah.
It's like, do I try and hang on to some old dream, or do I, look at what's in front of me and be faithful to that? Because I think that's kind of what it is too. Like, you got to be faithful with what God's given you, and that was kind of the thing. It was like, man, we had this time where we were faithful with what God had given us, and we played music and we toured and we impacted people, it seemed like, and people impacted us, and it was this great time. And then it was almost like, okay, now we got a new time, and God was doing a new thing, and now we're doing other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, for me, it is similar, a little bit different. Would I go back and do it? I mean, it might be cool to do like a reunion show or something someday, but in terms of like going all in on the band, probably not. It would take a lot of convincing. Not that I wouldn't love it, not that it wouldn't be a lot of fun, but I think for me, it just kind of, the thing that was a real struggle for me is like music was my life for so long.
Yeah.
Like ever since grade school, right when I started learning playing the piano, when I got my bass in junior high, and then in high school with guitar, and in college, like all I dreamed about was music. I mean, even my day job, right, when we were in the band, was to design guitar amps and guitar pickups and guitar pedals.
Yeah.
And I was convinced like that was going to be my life forever. Like that was my passion. That was my desire. I would give anything just to do music. But I remember it was right after the Heartbeat tour. We got back. When I reflected on it, my favorite times were when we got to chop it up with people and, hear their stories. But I remember just having this feeling, and it was really weird to me. Like, hey, I don't know if music's really doing it for me anymore. I was convinced, and I remember I'd even tell like my youth pastors growing up, and, even when I'd go back and talk with them when I was in college, I'd be like, God's purpose for my life is music. Is like, that is what he's put me on earth to do. And my mindset and my vision were just 100% there. I'm kind of like an all or nothing. It's really hard for me to do like halfway in.
Yes, sir.
And I mean, you know, when we're in the band, we'd even getting ready for the record, right? We'd record till like 2 or 3 a.m.
This is why
Go
we're
to work.
friends. This is why we're friends, because we are the same. We just go all in, because why not? What are you going to do if you don't go all in?
We would even, I remember, so when we were working full time, right, we'd get off work at 5, we would go down to LA for a show and drive back and go to work the next day. Like that was the life. But I just remember having this weird feeling like, oh my gosh, music isn't doing it for me anymore. And
Yeah.
not that I didn't have fun, not that I didn't enjoy it, but I really felt like God was putting on my heart, which was really confusing to me at the time because I was so convinced that God would always put on my heart, like, you're a music guy, like your bass, your worship, like this is the ministry I've called you for. And I just remember very clearly but very gently being like, oh my gosh, I don't think this is what I'm meant to give my life to. Like, I feel like there's something more. It wasn't like a dream died. It was kind of like this dream or this purpose matured.
Yeah.
I guess, you know? And so I remember that was, a lot of us were in that boat at the time too, because Luke, he'd gone away for a while to go be a part of some church things across the U.S.
Yeah.
Right? And then planted a church afterwards. You know, at that time, kind of around when he came back, we started talking about planting the church here in Santa Maria. And I just remember, I don't know, I was just battling so many different things in my head, like, what do I want to do with my life? Because we were all kind of at that place where we still, you know, most of us didn't have kids, or it was like we could still do whatever we want with our life.
Yep.
You know, there's this freedom. And I just remember feeling like I really want to impact people, and I feel like I really want to do it a different way.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like music anymore, and not that I don't have fun doing it, but I just feel like God's helping me move on to something better. And so, you know, people ask me all the time because, you know, even in my classes, right, when I talk about how I worked on music gear, and a lot of my students actually went to Delta.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and so they were your wife's students. And when I talked to them
So
about
awesome.
the picture, because she has a picture of the band up in the classroom, like, you're the guy in the picture. I'm like, yeah, you know, still famous.
Still famous.
But yeah, they asked me like, oh, you know, do you miss it? Would you do it again? Like, it was a great season, but I don't know that I would do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree in that after we did the band stuff, it was kind of like I had those thoughts like, should I just join another band? And I remember I had a band actually that we had played with one time that they all moved out to Tennessee or something. And they were like, hey, we need a drummer. Like, you should move to Tennessee and come be our drummer. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is so crazy that you would even invite me to do that, because you don't know anything about me, except for like we played one show together and I had kind of like been friends with them and like text message them or whatever. And I remember having that thought and talking about it with Jenna. I was like, hey, do you want to move to do you want to move to Tennessee so I can join, like, play drums for this random band? and she's so gracious and sweet. And she was just like, well, like, is that what you want? Like, do you want to be out there? Is it worth giving up what you have here and what we have here now? And it's interesting because you think differently, and especially as a married person too, I don't think about like, oh, what is the thing that's going to make me the happiest? It's like I have to take a back seat to my feelings and think, okay, what's going to be the best thing for my wife and kids? And we didn't have kids at the time, but it was a conversation that we had, like, should we move to Nashville and keep trying to do music? And and ultimately, I mean, we were doing other ministry things, and, you know, I was really finding value in leadership and really finding value in forming people and forming relationships with men in the church, young men, discipling men, counseling men. And it was that, like, do I want to leave this thing that I'm doing to go do music in this random way? And just the value wasn't there. I'm like, man, if I'm not going to play in a band with Justin and Luke and Jenna and either Timothy or Grant, depending on who's there, like, do I even want to do it? And I think that was part of it too. I think because of the way that our band was, it was like we were all just like best friends, and we're all just friends having fun as friends.
Yeah.
But if I had to go and, like, play a drummer in another band, and, it'd almost be disingenuous or something, like it doesn't feel like me. And so I was kind of like that. I'm like, I love playing worship at church because I still get to play music, and it's still about other people, you know, like it's a act of service. I'm going to play so that these people can, you know, engage, and it's like a blessing to them. It's like we're giving something that God's given us so that other people can, you know, experience him in a certain way. I love that. Like, that's beautiful. I'm super happy to just play worship on Sundays. Also happy to not play when they let me do that, to have the week off and just to get to enjoy. But yeah, I wouldn't do it again. I would do it again if it was all of us.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do it again just to do it again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. 100. Yeah, I think you really nailed it, because I think the thing that was so special about that time, you know, I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I think you put it really well, is it wasn't about the music.
Yeah.
The music was our excuse to travel and to do things, but so much of our life had nothing to do with music. Like our bond as friends and what we did. I mean, we did ministry together. We did street youth ministry together.
So
like,
fun.
I mean, just so much of life that we did together. The music was just kind of a byproduct of the life that we did together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely more about community, more about relationship, and it's like family, right? It's like we didn't have our parents, you know, none of our parents, well, I guess Luke's parents, but it's like all our parents live in other towns. We all ended up in SLO, and we all found each other and formed this weird family and started playing music together. It was like definitely more about that. Yeah, but it's beautiful. And it set us up, you know. I think it set us up to really be able to bless people. It set us up to have a lot of experiences that we can share and relate, you know, to different kinds of people. And it was good. I think God has definitely used it, but I'm happy now, and I'm happy with what we're doing now. I can't imagine having to drive anywhere in a van on a Sunday night and go back to work on a Monday. It just sounds so miserable. But I would do it with you.
Yeah. Dude, I would do it with you in a heartbeat.
That'd be awesome. I see
it's a good album name.
I see what you did there. Yeah. Well, I mean, even when Luke planted the church in LA, he was like, hey, I need a band. Like, can you guys come down? And we were literally just driving down to LA to do Sunday church like 2-3 times a month or something for nothing. Just for the excuse to like, hey, we all get to play together again. Yeah. And that was worth it. And I remember talking to people, they would be like, you're going to drive to LA to just like play at church and then drive back? And we're like, yeah. Like that. This is who we are. This is what we do, you know?
Isn't that what everyone does?
Yeah.
Why are you so weird, dude?
You're weird. You're weird that you watch football all day.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just, it's definitely more about, the family aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, for example, right, talking about like, you know, the reason and the cause behind it. So I transitioned from full-time working in the engineering job where I was designing guitar pedals and pickups and all that to teaching. I teach at a college campus right now. And, you know, to be honest, it's financially confusing. There we go. There's a word.
There you go.
a financial discussion. The security is a whole different story. But, you know, even when I talk to my students, right, some of my students are musicians are like, what? Like, you left designing, you know, guitar pickups and doing, like, I mean, if you're in electronics and you're into music, that's the dream job. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, that was the dream job. Still is a dream job, but it just doesn't do it for me, you know. But being on campus with all those young people, right, especially the young men, being able to be there in a time in their life where they're figuring out who they are and making, like, you know, in high school and junior high, you make decisions that kind of impact your life, but really, like, the 18 to 22 is where people either seriously, like, get on the right path or seriously, like, screw things up. Yeah. Or they're just trying to figure out what life's about. It's a very impressionable time. Yeah. And so just being able to be around students in that time, I mean, the classroom's fun, but students always hang out after class and we talk about life. We talk about their problems. You know, I've prayed for students, have asked me to pray for them. I've gotten in trouble for praying for students.
Yes. I love that so much.
But I sleep so good at night, just knowing like that is where I'm meant to be right now. And that is my cause. And that honestly brings me to life way more than playing music, than designing music gear. I think just over time, you know, that dream has matured. and has brought me different places. I mean, if you would have asked me even 5 years ago, would you be a teacher? I mean, I don't have a teaching credential.
I would have
Or my
told him,
master's.
I would have stepped in and been like, this guy is not going to be your teacher because he's going to be on tour with me. Period. He doesn't
Yep.
have time for that.
Yep.
It's funny when you were talking about your high school GPA being low, I was like, I think you beat me for your high school GPA because I barely made it to high school like my junior and senior. You moved out your junior year?
No, so I graduated high school on 7. I was always the youngest in my class.
Okay.
I started school when I
Got
was
it.
4. Yeah.
I was old. I'm like, as I moved out when I was 17, and my junior and senior year, I had like the worst grades. I like barely made it to school. Which after music, I'm like, now what do I do? Because I'm dumb. I don't know things. I didn't go to Cal Poly. Like, I don't have a degree. I have no applicable skills that I can see, like, what do I do? And yeah, I mean, I got into being like, I'm an electrical contractor now. I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business. I have employees, which is bizarre to think. Looking back, I would like, if I would be able to see myself 10 years in the future saying like, oh, you're going to be running an like a successful contracting business, I would have just been like, no way. It's so wild. But yeah, it's like I think when we stopped doing the music stuff, it kind of like left some room and some margin to grow and to pursue different things. No one in my family owns a business, like no one in my family is very wealthy or successful. I've got a couple of uncles who have done well, but my immediate family, and so, yeah, I'm kind of, it gave me space to kind of rewrite my destiny, my family history and figure out who I am. And yeah, we're doing good now.
Yeah. So you're also, correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll just edit this out.
I'll correct you.
You're the number one electrical contractor in SLO County, right? For several years in a row now.
Yeah.
Official.
So, yeah. So you're not wrong. It's a small print magazine. It's like a small news magazine. And they do just like a write-in voting campaign it's basically like a marketing campaign for the magazine. They just say, who are your favorite business owners? Write them in. And then the county submits their people that they say, oh, this is the best person. And then the magazine then contacts you and says, hey, everybody voted for you. You should buy an ad because, whatever. And so that's really what it is. It's kind of like a popularity contest / they're just marketing their own magazine and using local businesses to do it. It's actually pretty cool though. I have gotten a little bit of work from it. Yep. And, when I look at the other businesses that have been nominated and you're like, oh, I'm sitting next to these people who I really admire and look up to on like the local, business level. So it's cool to have your name among the stars in a sense. But I'm also pretty self-deprecating and I tend to downplay things. But yes, all that to say, I am not correcting you, but I am giving you some context. We have been voted best of SLO for several years in a row, but does it mean anything? I don't know. My mom's really proud of me, so that's all I care about.
Yep. If mom's proud of you, you're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been a journey, man. Things have shifted. You moved to Santa Maria.
I did. It's been, I think we're at the 10-year mark now.
Which now have you been in Santa Maria for longer than you were in SLO?
Yeah, I think coming up on this year. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this yesterday actually, because I got saved when I was 19 years old, and it's now 2024. I'm 38 years old, and I have now been a Christian for as long as I have not been a Christian. And I was like, dang, we're on the other side.
Nice.
It's just such a wild thing to think about. Like half of my life, I just spent spinning my wheels. Yeah. Fortunately, the young, dumb half. But this second half has been pretty good.
Yeah. Man, it's been a journey.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we've talked music, talked, you have your business, really successful, best of SLO.
Best of SLO, baby.
Me and your mom are both your biggest fans.
Yep.
You're also a family man. Right?
Yes.
Married, you got some kids.
Yeah, they call it the millionaire family when you have a boy first. and then a girl. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with like statistics. Like statistically, American millionaire families are married couples who have one boy and one girl, and the boy is older. So I remember somebody told me that one time. And they're like, "Oh, millionaire family," and I was like, "I wish I would like to be one day." But yeah, so I've been married to my wife for 14 years. You were at my wedding.
I played at your wedding. Yep.
So wild. Our band played at my wedding.
Yep.
Man, the silly things you do when you're young. So we've been married 14 years. I have a son, Seth, who's 10 years old. My daughter, Emma, just so precious, 4 years old. And I can't believe the life that I have. I remember when I was early 20s, just barely becoming a Christian, I pretty much had written off like a relationship. Didn't think I'd ever be married. Didn't think I'd ever have kids. A lot of divorce in my family. A lot of brokenness. Well, growing up, it was very rare that someone's parents were still together. And, you'd always play your parents' divorces against each other. Like, oh, I'm going to go spend the night at so-and-so's mom's house, but you're actually at his dad's house, and his dad actually doesn't care because he's not even there, and you just do whatever you want. So we definitely lived that kind of a life. And I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to burden kids with that. I don't want to bring kids up in this world. And I kind of written off like women and relationships. I'm like, man, I'm just going to be one of those Christian guys who just is an evangelist, and I'll be single forever, and maybe we'll play some music or whatever. And I remember Pastor Denise actually came up to me one time at one of our meetings, and she just like came at me with like that mom, the mom eyes, where she like sees straight through your soul and speaks like a word from God. And she just came up to me and she's like, I believe that you're going to be an amazing father. And I about just like, it's funny because I actually got like super angry. Like what I felt inside of me was like anger, and like I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to do the opposite of that. I don't want that at all. I hate that. And it was funny because she always tells the story like, I thought you were going to punch me in the face when I told you that, because I just had this like this like such an extreme reaction. But then I remember distinctly too, like at some point a few years later, it was one of those moments where I really felt like God spoke to me, which are rare when you actually feel when it seems like when you hear the voice of God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just remember, like I remember praying and being on my hands and knees and asking God, like, God, what am I supposed to do? What am I here for? And I heard him say to me, you're going to be a father to the fatherless. And I was like, again, a similar reaction, like, no, impossible, so crazy. And I just started with starting a small group. I started reaching out to some youth, started reaching out to some like little punk 13, 14-year-old kids, and then some high school kids and I thought that that's what that meant. Like, oh, you're going to be like a father-like figure to these young men and help them out. But yeah, it's kind of incredible. Like God totally changed my heart, redeemed everything that I thought about women, everything that I thought about marriage and what it was for and what it could be. And yeah, God gave me an amazing woman that I don't deserve. She's like so much better than me in every way. And she puts up with me, and it's bizarre. And now I get the privilege of raising these sweet kids. I don't know what else to say.
That was good.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, teenage me could never imagine having kids. But now it's like, man, I can't imagine not having kids. They're just so incredible.
Yeah. Man, we've come a long way.
Man, we're getting old. We have come a long way.
Yeah. Cool. So what's next? What's the future look like?
So what does the future look like? Well, I'm trying to raise good human beings. My son is 10, and I am trying to really focus and dial in, like, how do I help my son become a man? Ooh. Which is a wild thing, How do you teach things? When do you teach things? And so I've been really diving into that, kind of coming up with a game plan of doing some father-son activities and like some father-son devotional stuff. And so that's next. Business-wise, I would like to start another business. Jenna's starting a business right now, my wife. It's interesting what you were talking about earlier, leaving your dream job, making guitar pedals and making more money and going and teaching for less money, because it actually is, what gets you going and what's valuable to you. She's actually not teaching anymore. She's leaving a dream job. Actually, I don't know if I should say this on the podcast because she hasn't told them yet, but she's going to tell them. So whatever, they don't listen to this yet, but she's leaving a dream job, pension, healthcare, 6-figure income, because she wants to be home with our kids. And she's starting a virtual assisting business where she's helping businesses, just with tasks and things that she can do remotely. So in a sense, I'm kind of starting a second business in doing that. I've been helping her out a lot and trying to feed her clients, because doing the construction stuff, I work with a lot of small business owners and a lot of like people who have enough money to pay people to work on their houses. So I'm like, hey, my wife does this and that. And so I'm trying to get her some clients and stuff. So we're kind of building that business, and it's really shifting our family dynamic a lot right now, which is really sweet, having her at home more, and me being a little bit like being a little bit more free to invest in my business, because while she's working, I'm doing a lot of the daddy stuff. So I'm doing lots of pick up from school and dropping off and youth sports and making food and making lunches and stuff. I have employees, so I'm like slightly more flexible with my time, and I can set my own schedule and stuff. But it's been amazing having her at home. And then so what's next is, getting her business up and running and off the ground, and then, just continuing to ask God, okay, like what's our family doing in SLO right now? What can we do to impact our community? We run small groups through our house, at our house through our church. And, we love that. We're investing more into families. It's cool because we have a lot of like younger married couples, lots of married couples with kids now. And, we used to just like be high school and college students and having fun and doing stuff like that all the time. But there's different needs with married couples, and with, marriage dynamics. There's a different need of counseling, and with children and raising children and behavior, there's different needs. And so, it's kind of, again, like maturing in that ministry sense, and asking God, like, okay, God, what are we here for, and how can we, be as effective as possible? That's kind of what's next, building a business and taking ministry stuff to the next level. So
awesome. Dude, Sean, let's do this again, man.
Let's do this again.
Yeah.
We don't even need microphones.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah. We don't even have to record it, but maybe we will. Maybe we'll post it.
We should. We got to give the people what they want.
It's true.
They love this.
What if they want a reunion tour?
That would be pretty fun, actually. we could do like a Zoom call where we are all playing different instruments. We could do it.
Yeah.
We have the technology.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. We're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and like on there. We're on all those platforms. But Sean, dude, I love you, man. Thanks for coming. Let's do this again real soon.
My pleasure. Any chance I get to be able to hang out with you. Yeah, if you want me to hang out with Justin more, just put it in the comments and vote for me. I'll come out and we'll do more stuff.
Yeah, and make sure that you go and you vote for Unity Electric best contractor in SLO.
Best contractor ever.
In the world.
In history.
Yep. Cool. All right, bring the ruckus. Much love.